Hi, my lovely viewers. I am so elated today because I've got a doctor all the way from Ireland today on my channel. And I believe there are lots of doctors out there planning to probably relocate to the United States of America or the United Kingdom. But a lot of people don't know about what it takes to relocate to Ireland as an international medical graduate. So if you are considering working in Ireland as a doctor, then you're the right place. On my channel, we have a doctor, like I said. She's going to tell us all we need to know about working in Ireland. She's going to highlight the process involved. She's going to talk about salary. She's going to talk about her experience there and so much more. So please stay tuned and let's dive right in. So I've got Timike today. She's going to tell us about herself, all she wants us to know about her, and then we'll move on to ask her some questions. And feel free to drop your questions in the comment section below, and we will respond to them as much as we can. Hi, Timike.
Hi, Mabel. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on here.
Oh, thank you so much for making time out of your busy schedule.
So, obviously,
And right. So, can you tell viewers out there a bit about yourself?
sure. So, my name is Timike. I'm Nigerian, as you can probably tell from my accent. I grew up in Nigeria. I did my first degree in Nigeria in biochemistry, and then after that, then I decided to go into med school. So I did part of my medical school in Ireland, and then part of my med school in Malaysia. It's a bit of a long gist, but I suppose the summary of that was that the offer I got for medical school was to do part of it in Dublin in Ireland, and then part of
Mm,
it in Malaysia. So I did 2.5 in Dublin in Ireland, and then 2.5 in Malaysia. And then after that, then I applied for internship. I got onto an internship in here in Ireland, and then I've been working ever since then. So I graduated from med school in 2019, and I started working in 2020. So I've been here working since 2020, and
wow.
I'm currently in one of the schemes in general internal medicine.
Wow, that's lovely. We can tell that Timika has a great wealth of experience. So, Timika, can you tell us what does it take to work as a doctor in Ireland as an international medical graduate? So let's take it as someone maybe back home in Africa or another continent wanting to work in Ireland.
So if you're looking to work in Ireland, so it really depends on a number of factors. So, for example, are you fresh out of medical school, or have you been working at home for a while and you're looking to move over to Ireland? So, say you're done with medical school and you're looking to come to Ireland to start internship. So there are a number of international medical graduates who graduate from certain countries who are allowed to
Mm,
do internships. So I just literally wrote it down on while I was preparing for this. I wrote the name of the countries or the list of the countries down. So I'll just probably read them quickly. So I wrote here that graduates of medical schools in non-European Union or European Economic Area member states may not apply for internship post or internship registration in Ireland. That was a bit heartbreaking when I saw that,
oh.
but that's just
Mhm.
it's just so all applicants to intern posts in the Irish healthcare system must be a graduate or final year student of whatever nationality of a medical school in one of the following EEA countries. So it's not all of the EEA countries even. So Ireland, obviously, Norway is also listed, Denmark, Sweden, Italy, Malta, Poland, Portugal, Iceland, and a couple of other countries. So I'd say to get on the IMC, the Irish Medical Council website, just to see if you're from any of those or if you've graduated from those countries, because you can be of any nationality, but if you graduate from those
Mm,
countries or those medical schools, then you're allowed or you're eligible. Also, it also lists here the medical school I graduated from, because I finished in Malaysia, so it's also listed the Malaysian campus because it was an Irish school in a Malaysian campus, or will I say an Irish campus in Malaysia. So
Malaysia.
that school was listed there as well. So I'd say if you're not sure, I'll say get on the Irish Medical Council website to check if your EEA or the country that you finished med school from is eligible. So that's for internship. So if you've graduated from those medical schools, then you're eligible to apply for internship. And then the process there is just everything is straightforward. So you apply for internship. Some people who apply for internship as non EEA graduates might need to do an exam called the intern eligibility employment test. So that's the exam I did as well. So it's in two parts. There's the part one in January and the part two in February. Before COVID, they were all physical exams where you'd need to come in to do the exams. The part one was theory, but you'd come into the college to do the exam, and then part two was clinical. But now with COVID and all of that, they haven't still changed. They've kind of changed since then, so it's all now online. So everything is pretty much online. So I suppose that's a perk, or that's a perk. So apply for internship, do the exam. The IEET is the short form, and then when you pass the exam, then you're shortlisted for intern posts. Then you can preference what intern posts you want to do, and then if you get a post, then you apply for the General Medical Council registration, and they would invite you to apply for it. So everything is streamlined for intern applications. And then when you apply for it, you get your GMC registration, you get your letter of employment, and they would also apply for a work permit as well for you. So you get your work permit, and then you use all of those documents to apply for a visa, a work visa. And then once you get your work visa, then you're welcome. You can come to Ireland. So that's for those who have finished medical school and haven't done internship. If you've done internship, if you've practiced a couple of years back home, then you can apply. I'd advise you to go to the General Medical Council website, and there's something called the eligibility chart that lets you put in your different circumstances to see what to do or what to apply for, or what kind of registration to apply for if you're eligible for the. So you go to the website, you key in your details, and then it brings up certain requirements. So just broadly speaking, anyway, so if you want to apply for the General Medical Council because you've done internship already, you need to do there's a test, or there's an exam, a different exam. It's called the pre-registration examination system. In short form, it's called the PRESS. So there's PRESS. It comes in two parts. There's no longer a part one, so it's just a PRESS 2 and a PRESS 3. If you're looking to open your options, so for example, and I might be bringing things back to myself, just to kind of make it more practical. So with myself, I kept an open mind when I finished med school. I was both applying to the UK and Ireland as well. So I had done the PLAB. So for example, with the PRESS 2, if you have done the PLAB 1, that's kind of substitutes for the PLAB 2. So there's no for the PLAB 1 rather. So the PLAB 1 is similar or equivalent to the PRESS 2. So if you've done your PLAB 1, there's no need to do PRESS 2. You can just go ahead to do PRESS 3. PRESS 3 is the clinical component, and PRESS 2 is the theory. So PLAB 1 is theory, so that kind of equates to PRESS 2. So once you've done your PLAB 1, there's no need to do PRESS 2. Just go ahead with PRESS 3. So anyway, once you do those exams, the PRESS 2 and 3, then there are a couple of other things as well. Your primary medical qualification, you have to kind of EPIC verify it. EPIC is called, the full name is Electronic Portfolio of International Credentials. And so the EPIC helps, it checks your qualification and sees if it's internationally recognized, and if it's kind of is equivalent to the Irish or to whatever country you're applying to. So you submit your primary medical qualification to EPIC, you do the exams, and then you have to do IELTS as well. So IELTS is also part of the requirements for the General Medical Council registration. With IELTS, the total score is a score of 7. So you have to get a minimum of 7, and for each component, it has to be a minimum of 6.5. That was a bit of a struggle for me, yes. So they're very strict with that. So that was a bit of a struggle with me, for me, getting 6.5 in one of the setting components. But so anyway, so it has to be minimum of 6.5 in each component, and overall has to be 7. And that's all you need really. So your EPIC certified primary medical qualification, you'd also submit your certificate of experience from your internship. You must have done your PRES exams, you must have done IELTS, and then you should get a certificate of good standing from your medical council. Those are the requirements to apply for apply for medical council registration. Once you have that, then you go ahead, just Google Irish medical jobs, and then once you have your registration, everything else is straightforward. You apply for a job, they offer you a job, they give you your employer, my employer had applied for a work permit on my behalf. So if you need, everyone who is from another country would need a work permit, most people anyway. So if you do need a work permit,
Mm,
let your employer know, email them that you need a work permit. Most of the times they would apply for it on your behalf, and you don't need to do anything apart from just submitting your documents. So that they would apply for that, and then once you have that, then you apply for your visa. So to apply for a visa, you need, and I know we're going to come there shortly, so I won't go too much into that. But essentially, you need your, your work permits, your letter of employment, and your GMC registration, or General Medical Irish. Sorry, GMC is more of the UK. I'm so used to saying GMC.
yeah.
Yes, you're at the Irish Medical Council, your registration, and then that's what you use for a visa. So that's kind of like, I know I kind of rushed through everything, but that's the overview or the general sense of when you want to apply, coming from home, either being fresh out of medical school or you've worked a couple of years at home and you're looking to,
Mm,
yeah.
all right. Wow, that was very, very detailed. Thank you so much, Sumike. You have really highlighted all we need to know, the pathway, the exams, even some documents that we need, how to even get your visa sorted and all that. Thank you so, so much. So, for those who have some experience, post medical training in their countries, I was wondering, does it help to have, some amount of medical experience? Would you advise people to gain maybe a few years of experience? Does that help in any way?
I mean, it's no experience or no exposure is ever a risk, so it definitely does help.
Mm,
Don't feel like you need to wait a couple of years back home. Like, say if you make that decision that you want to move to Ireland, don't think that you have to
mm,
gather the experience before you come, because that just delays your own process, delays,
okay.
I suppose your plans moving forward. It is a perk.
Mm,
It's an advantage, if you already have that. If you want to take a year or so to gather the experience, that's also fine. So say if you've done your internship, once you've gotten through the hurdle of doing your internship, if you know that you're not eligible to apply for internship in Ireland, if you're not from those previously stated countries, then once you've done your internship in your own country, then you're pretty much eligible to apply for IMC, the Irish Medical Council registration, and then you can come over. So once you have the internship, you can come over. However, if you have, say,
okay.
additional qualifications, like having
Hmm.
like the MRCPs and all of that, then that also
Yeah.
helps, because when you start working here, you're also going to need those exams. I took mine last, I completed mine last a few months ago. So if I had that, for example, that I wouldn't have had to go through that process. So you would still need those
Right.
exams anyway, but it shouldn't delay.
Mm,
If you haven't done them, you don't necessarily need to wait at home to get them done in order to come over. So once you have your internship, you're eligible to apply for the IMC registration.
okay. Right. Thanks. So, just to touch on internship and training, like foundation training, like some people call it, house job in other countries as well. So, say there's a doctor who is fresh out of medical school and wanting to work in Ireland. How long is the internship or foundation training there? Or
And at the end of the 1 year, you get your certificate of experience. And then, so
mm,
with the internship, you're on the provisional registration. And then after you
okay,
complete your internship, you get the certificate of experience, and then you can now use that to apply for having the full general medical or Irish council registration. So it's 1 year and 6 months of general medicine and 6 months of surgery. Yeah, so with Ireland, so it's 6 months of general medicine. So
mm,
it's possible that there is ENT and ophthalmology, but it won't be the vast majority. So with
okay,
surgery, for example, so with surgery, my surgical rotations were vascular surgery. So that's very subspecialized.
all right,
Yeah, so
yeah,
vascular surgery and general surgery. And then my own
mm,
medications were gastroenterology, respiratory medicine. So it's even in that general medicine, then they can now make it subspecialized. In
or
that general,
specialized.
they can make it subspecialized. I know there was max fact
Mm,
as people's rotations for the general surgical rotation. So under that is very
okay.
specialized. So ENT is probably part of it, perhaps. I'm sure that ENT interns, so I'll say ENT is part.
Mm,
So
all right.
for the main ones, is
Mm,
broadly divided. You should have 6 months of surgery, 6 months of medicine. Then whatever surgical rotation you do,
mm.
is still counted as surgery. So we still count towards the 6 months. Yeah.
Okay. Right. I want us to narrow down on very, very key points that I believe a lot of people out there are wondering. Salary. How can you give us a fair idea of how much, doctors earn? Let's say starting from the junior levels, if you can, because I believe one of the main reasons why people want to relocate is to get better opportunities, looking for greener pastures. So, can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, coming from home, it's the salary is very different compared to here. It's a lot better. So as an intern, we get paid, or while I was an intern, 4 years ago, the salary or the basic salary was 38,000 euros per annum, and that's the gross income you get, and that's the basic pay. So taxes are deducted out of that, but then you're also working overtime. So let's say you're working, let's say you're probably not working too much or too little. Let's say you're working at the average overtime hours. So with taking away the tax deductions, then you probably be making say 40 or 42 or 43. I never really did the calculations after all of those additions and deductions, but let's say 42-ish thousand euros per annum is what you'll be getting as an intern. And then obviously, after internship here in Ireland is the senior house officer, and then your pay obviously increases. After internship, then it differs. So say two SHOs might be getting two different pays. So SHOs meaning senior house officer. So two different SHOs might be getting two different pays. So for example, someone like myself who had a degree in Nigeria already, after internship, all interns get the same pay, but after your internship, then that's where it's graded into what qualifications you've accumulated over time and what experience you have over time. So two SHOs, as I mentioned, might not even get the same pay depending on their experiences and qualifications. So for example, if you had a degree before your medical degree, that would count higher on the scale, and so you would get more than someone who didn't have a degree. If you've worked a couple of years as a senior house officer, say if you've been on a training program, or even if you've just been, even if you haven't been on a training program, but if you've worked as a senior house officer for a number of years, that's obviously you've accumulated experiences over time. Obviously, you'd have done some exams over time, so that also puts you above those who don't have such experiences. So there are scales to once you become a senior house officer or a registrar, their pay is now divided into scales depending on what scale you fall onto or into. So there's from scale 1 to I think 6 or 7, where things like, as I mentioned, your qualifications, how many years you've been a registrar for, or how many years you've been a senior house officer for, that increases you on the pay scale. So you get higher than that. So it increases, the pay scales can increase up to 2,000, 3,000. So you're probably getting paid 2,000 or 3,000 more than your other colleagues who are also senior house officers and things like that. So that's the rough. So for interns, or internship at my time in 2020 was 38,000 basic pay, gross income, and then as SHOs it increases to 40,000, and then depending on the scale you're on to 42, 45, 47. As an SHO you can get as much as 60,000 60,000 euros per annum even, but that's gross pay, then that's the basic pay without your overtime and things like that. So you work 39 hours official time, but then there's overtime on top of that. So as an SHO you can get as much as 60,000 and even more than that. So it really just depends on what you've accumulated or your experiences you've accumulated over time. And then as a registrar as well, you might even be getting, as a first year registrar, you could be getting the same pay as a house officer, a senior house officer who has worked maybe 6 years as a senior house officer, because it's just how it works. It just depends on your
Hmm.
experience. So as a registrar, you can be getting up to 60, or it starts from 60 perhaps, and then it works up to 63, 65, 67, and just depends on how much experience you've accumulated. So it varies a lot, but the range for non-consultants, broadly speaking, would be between 38,000 to 68,000 perhaps.
Okay. Right. It's really reassuring to hear that years of experience, qualifications also count when they are planning the pays and all that. That's really helpful, because in some other countries, let's say it's just a scale for a particular grade and that's it. So I believe those who have lots of qualifications out there, those who have years and years of experience will be happy to hear this. So I brought this question first, just to probably encourage people or whet their appetites before talking about the cost of the exams. So are you able to tell us how much it costs to get some of these exams sorted? Or I believe at some point we can signpost people to websites where they can find, the cost of the exam, because definitely there are regular updates to the cost of the exam. So roughly how much does it cost to get all the exams sorted from an IMG's perspective?
IMJ. So with the exams now, and before I come to that, just so I don't forget, because I plan to say this before, just so I don't forget.
Mm,
So just to say that for those who want to move, so the HSC is the equivalent for NHS. So HSC is the Health Service Executive, and that's the Irish equivalent to the NHS. So there's actually something called an international recruitment relocation package that offers
mm,
5,000 euros for those who would be moving to Ireland that have a job for 2 years. So the minimum requirement is that you have to be offered, you have to have a 2-year job post, or you have to, if you're coming for just 1 year, or if you have a job that's just for 1 year, then you won't qualify. The minimum requirement is that if you have 2 years, if you have a job that's for 2 years, then you qualify to, you can apply for it. You just send them an email and to avail of the international recruitment relocation package. That's about 5,000 euros, and that goes into your relocation expenses, really. So your flights, accommodation, exams, tickets, and things like that. So anything that accrues, or anything that's for your relocation, even for your family as well, whoever comes with you, goes into the relocation package, and that's 5,000 euros, just to say. So coming down to exams, it's been 5 years, so I'd have to check. But for the intern employment eligibility test part one, it would be around 200 to 500 euros, roughly speaking. And then the part two would probably be the same, if not higher. So I think roughly for the intern employment eligibility test, the test that you do when you want to become an intern in Ireland, if you're eligible to be an intern, it would
mm.
be between 500 to 1,000 euros for both of the tests. Now it differs if you're flying over for the exams, but I think things have changed. I had to fly over, but I don't think you have to fly over anymore since the COVID. They had to change things around where everything is online. So the exams anyway would be between 500 to 1,000 euros for both of the exams. With the press, I'll assume it would probably be higher. I didn't do press because I went through, I did the intern employment eligibility test, but I'll assume that the press would be probably higher. I'll say to check on the Irish Medical Council website and just search for press fees, and it will all come up there. But I'll assume it's higher. So there's the press 2. There's no press 1, as I mentioned before. There's the press 2 that's theory, and then there's the press 3 that's clinical. Press 2 would be cheaper than the press 3, I'll assume, but press would probably be, say, 300, 500. I won't be able to give a number on that. But say when you're now here, for the MRCPIs, the exams for the the Royal College of Physicians in Ireland, there's a UK component, and that's for UK, and then there's the Irish equivalent, which is the I at the end. So for the part 1 of that, that was theory, and that was roughly about 600 euros. And then the part 2 of the MRCPI, that was 700 euros roughly. And then for the part 3, or the part 2B, which is the clinical component, and that's about 800 euros. It's a clinical component, so it's more expensive. But you don't really feel the cost of the exams. The reason why you don't is because I'm not sure how, if it's similar to the UK, but here, whatever exams you do towards your career development, you can ask for a refund. We have a system here, or on our, like you're registered, and there's an e-portfolio, and it's called the NER, the National Employment Record. And on that, you have every year you have an amount that's apportioned to you for your career development, and you submit receipts to avail of it. So if you do an exam, you submit your receipt, and then they refund you based on the amount you have for that year. So you can ask for a refund, when you start working and you're doing specialized exams.
Wow, this sounds so exciting. Knowing that you can receive a refund for examinations that you've taken. Yeah, I haven't really heard of this in any other country yet.
Really, that's in the UK.
So yeah, I find this exciting. In some other countries, yes, you can get a bit of like a tax refund. So it's not getting the entire, cost of the exam back. It's just a refund of, the tax you paid on it. So it's really exciting to know that that happens in Ireland. And you did talk about like
Mm.
opportunities there as well, you claiming things back and all that. So that's really good. So just to add to that, talking about career growth, how does Ireland support, the career growth and continuing medical education of doctors? Let's say aside the training pathway where maybe people want to train to become um, internal medicine specialists and things like that. Are there other opportunities? Do they sponsor doctors to do other things as well?
Yeah, so Ireland is really good for that, and I must give them credit. So with regards to career development, they're very intentional. For example, with the financial support, that's a lot. Like paying 700 euros for one exam, 800 for another exam, 900. That's a lot of money and a lot of investment, especially if you have other financial responsibilities like looking after your family here or sending money back
Yeah.
home. So that's a huge help. In terms of your career development and helping you to progress. Apart from the
Mhm.
financial support that the Irish healthcare system provides in career development, there's also courses you can do as well online. And then whatever course you want to do, as long as it's CPD accredited, you can get a reimbursement from that. So it can be a course in America if you wanted to do it online, or even if you wanted to travel. If you applied for a reimbursement for the tickets, that goes to your travels for the course in whatever country, the course itself, even the accommodation or the hotel that you book for that course, that's still towards the cost. So anything that's towards your career development, you can get a reimbursement on. So the cost itself, the accommodation, even the food, if you pay for something, you keep the receipt and you can ask for a refund. So that's one of the ways that Ireland or the Irish healthcare system encourages people or its doctors in career development. Another way, apart from this financial support, is teaching sessions opportunities as well, even in the hospital. So as an intern, you would get once weekly teachings that's mandatory for you to complete your internship, and that just is just things like what you would face as an intern, medical scenarios, how to treat this, how to treat that, things you would see on call, things that would help you really as you're practicing medicine in your internship or in your career, and things that would help you moving forward. So that's teaching sessions. Even as SHOs and regis, there would also be once weekly teaching sessions that helps in your own clinical practice as well. And I think in terms of other career development, so I know that before I went on to, so I'm currently on the training program. I'm currently a senior house officer on a training program that's finishing in July, and then I move on to becoming a registrar. But I know before I applied or before I came onto the scheme, the SHO scheme, there was a kind of like a fun fair or a career fair, should I say, where different people had come from different specialties, both those who were already on the training scheme and those who were on the higher training scheme for registrars, and they had come to just kind of show us what the process involved, the process of application or the process of applying
Mm,
for the scheme and things like that. So they kind of gave us a lecture on how to apply, what you need to apply, the timelines, the deadlines, what to do after you get on the scheme, what opportunities you have and things like that. So I think those, mainly the teaching sessions, the financial supports that they give, and the little career, the courses that they offer online or and things like that. I think those usually go a long way and are going a long way in helping towards career development.
thank you for sharing that, Tumike. So about lifestyle, not everyone out there is looking to, work, work, work only. Some people are also interested in wanting to know about what's out there. If I'm not working, are there things I can do? Are there fun places to visit in Ireland? What are some of the benefits from a lifestyle point of view in Ireland?
I'll say it's similar to the UK, really. Ireland is an absolutely beautiful country. The people are so warm and welcoming. You see someone on the road, say hello to you. And so people are so warm and welcoming. In terms of living, I'd say it's very similar to the UK. But say after work, I remember last year I was going for swimming classes after work. So the good thing is that you can, if you wanted to, you can find that work-life balance. If you're
Mm.
intentionally about it, work can be so busy and sometimes you can forget. But if you take it as, if you prioritize it, you can actually find that work-life balance. So say going for classes, and also someone that's doing Zumba classes after work. I went for swimming classes sometime last year. Driving lessons. I know a couple of people who are doing driving lessons while they're on night and while they're off during the day to take driving lessons. Also visiting different parts of Ireland. I know people who, after a Friday, they would travel the weekend to see another area of Ireland, like say Dublin, Waterford, different cities, even the small counties. It's just also beautiful, the countryside. So, traveling is something you can do over the weekends with your family, if you have family, or even just alone, really. So traveling over the weekends to explore the different lovely, beautiful parts of Ireland, is one thing that you can do while you're off work. And even after work, just catching up with friends from work. Sometimes we would have team dinners, team activities. I know a team that had gone for archery classes, or just archery, and that was lovely. So there
Mm.
are lots of things you can do with your team after work, or with your family and loved ones. So as with whatever you would even do, like if you're coming from wherever you're coming from back home, whatever you would have done after work, you can certainly also bring that as well, and do that after work. So it's really up to you. There's no limit on what you can do after work. It's just really based on your interests. Even
Mm.
exploring new hobbies as well, visiting the museum after work, and seeing sightseeing and things like that. So there's a lot of things you can do after work.
All right. That's really good to know. Now, I know there are always two sides to everything in life. There are the good sides and the bad sides. So let's talk about some common challenges that international medical graduates are likely to face in Ireland. Maybe you can share some personal experiences, probably from what you've heard from other people. But what are some of the common challenges international medical graduates face in Ireland?
So some of the challenges that international medical graduates could face. So maybe I'll divide it into when you're coming into the country, or when you're just relocating versus when you're already here. So when you're moving, one of the challenges that you might face that might be discouraging, but hold on, is that of attaining the Irish Medical Council registration, because then you have to do exams if you're required. There are some people who are exempt from exams, and I'll encourage you to check on the Irish Medical Council website to see if you're exempt. However, if you're required to do those exams, that could be a challenge, I suppose, passing them or getting through them. Another challenge, apart from the exams, is even the visa. I know people who are now here in Ireland, but they got refused the first two times for the Irish visa. So that's
Mm.
also, yeah, a challenge that people face when they're moving here. Just getting past the border, literally. So I know people that have had challenges with that, with getting a visa, and then they eventually, don't give up. So they keep on applying, and then they eventually get it and then move here with their families. So that's one of the challenges: the visas, the exams before you come in, or the Irish Medical Council registration. So that's and maybe also the financial implications as well. But then, as I had mentioned before, if you're going to come here if you have a 2-year job contract, then you can avail of the relocation package that's about €5,000. So let's say you're already here. One of the challenges that you might face is just culture shock, really. Like coming from wherever you're coming from, it's a different environment, different accents. It's a different environment. People that, yes, it's just also different. It's a different environment. Lovely people, but it's still different from what you're used to. So the culture shock, adapting to that culture shock. So that's one of the challenges people face. It's just a change in environment, the culture, and things like that. And as you live here, you would get used to it and love it. Another thing, apart from the difference in culture, the culture shock, is also with regards to the Irish healthcare system. It's different from what we're used to at home. It's different from wherever you're coming from. It's going to be different. So just adapting to that. So that might be a challenge when you first come, but time is literally all that you need to, to get a hang of things and to get used to the system, really. Another challenge that people might face is because Ireland is not as big of a country as the UK, so the opportunities for, say, progressing in terms of your career might not be the same as with the UK. So it's as I had mentioned before, the Irish healthcare system really encourages its doctors to progress, via financial support and the courses and things like that, and they really, really support you. But because there's always going to be a limit, demand versus supply scenario where there are there are less jobs and more people, or even particularly on the training scheme, because when you move to Ireland, you're probably your first year, you might be on a non-training scheme because you're getting used to things. But once you come here and you're settled, I'd encourage you to apply for the training scheme, because that's how you can progress when you're on a training program, and that's how you can develop yourself career-wise. So getting on the training scheme is another area where people find challenging or difficulties with getting on the scheme, because there are only a few spots on the scheme compared to how many people that want to get on the scheme. So that's also one challenge for international medical graduates. But it doesn't really matter, your passport. I know, obviously, if you're Irish, you would excuse me, you get more preference for getting onto the scheme than non-Irish, but they still take a lot of non-Irish. I don't have an Irish passport, and I was able to get on the scheme by God's help. So you're still able to get on the scheme. So don't give up. It's very possible. I've heard of a lot of people that have said, "Oh, I don't have an Irish passport, so I won't even bother applying because I won't be eligible." But that's you should give yourself that opportunity, because there are people who are getting on the scheme. It's a challenge though, but it's not impossible. So getting on the scheme, on the training scheme, is one area that people find challenging. And I think those are the main things really. While you're here, the culture, the change in culture, the being adjusting to the Irish healthcare system and getting onto the scheme, and also the exams, because there are also exams that you would need to do while you're here, in terms of career progression. Because as a doctor, we have to keep abreast of changes in healthcare and all that's happening. So one of the way that they test our progress is by exams. So you would be required, if you're here for 5 years, you're not doing exams, there's something wrong. So you'll be required to do exams. You'll be required to do exams. So those exams people could also find challenging. But again, you've gone through med school, you've gone through final year medical school exam. Those were huge hurdles, and you surpassed them. You came from another country to Ireland with all those hurdles, and you surpassed them. So it's very possible. So, but exams nonetheless, could be challenging for people, and also, as I had mentioned before, getting onto the training program.
Wow, that's really, really helpful information. Because when people are planning, I believe it's helpful for them to do some of these challenges, to anticipate these, and also think of ways they can jump these hurdles. So, are there support systems in Ireland to support international medical graduates? So, for example, in other countries, like in the UK, there are some associations, like for Nigerians, I know they have the Nigerian Doctors Association in the UK and other countries and things like that. To help IMG sort of settle in, do you know of any such associations in Ireland?
Yeah, I do know of a couple of associations. So as you had mentioned before, so whenever you move, it's a very, though everyone is moving around. So when you move to Ireland, you would see someone from your own country as well, and then there might be a couple of people from your country in the hospital where you work, and then they form a WhatsApp
Right.
group where you guys go out to have lunch, have dinner, meet up over the weekend with your families and spend time together and things like that. So there are, even like when you move to Ireland and when you get to a hospital, just find out from people in the same country as you. I mean, obviously don't just be friends with people from your own country, because otherwise why are you in a new country? But at the same time, there's this sense of belonging, or there's this sense of when you come to a new country, your first instinct is to first look for your own people, because then they make you feel comfortable before you perhaps then become I suppose more comfortable or settled. So in your whatever hospital you move into, check if there are WhatsApp groups for, say, I know, for example, like in my hospital, there's a Pakistan WhatsApp group where they meet up over the weekends to hang out with their families, have barbecues and things like that, which is very awesome. So when you move to the hospital, whatever hospital you're in, check with fellow people from your own country if there's a WhatsApp group, if there's a meetup, whenever, and and that's something you can look into as well. Another support group, or another form of support. We know that religion, people find religion as a form of support as well. So if you're whatever religion you're from, find people in your hospital who are of the same religion as you are, and and check with them. Is there something happening, a religious activity over the weekend that you can be a part of? That also helps. That also helps your mind, and mind, soul, and body really, and just also helps with regards to settling into your own space, settling into where you are. So that also helps. Other forms of support, even the Irish healthcare system also provides support in terms of, if you went to their website, there's a lot of are you a doctor, are you depressed, click on this. There are confidential counselors and psychologists who can speak to you. Are you sad, are you anxious? There are people that can speak to you. There's a confidential phone line that, if you went to the Irish Medical Council website, there's a confidential helpline where you can speak to someone confidentially, and there are professionals who can help you. So that's another support system. Even within the hospital, sometimes I remember I get emails. It's called the medical parents webinar. So a parent and also a doctor is challenging, having to juggle those. So they always organize, like meetups, how to navigate being a parent and a medical professional as well, and things like that. So there are, just, I suppose, keeping an open mind, keeping your ears on the ground when you move here, keeping your ears on the ground at the hospital, speaking to people, people that look like you and people that don't look like you. Don't just keep things amongst your own people, but that's why you're in a different country to experience a different culture, because it's such a lovely country. So I'll say keep your ears to the ground, because there's a lot of support systems that you can find here.
Wow, that's really, really reassuring to know. And I believe people out there, viewers out there, will be happy to know that there is that support, especially when you've moved from your home country to another country. Like you mentioned, the culture shock, you mentioned some challenges that people do face. But then the good thing is that if you keep an open mind, like Tumike said, there are some opportunities out there, like connecting with people from your country, those even not from your country, other IMGs. You talked about websites as well, where you can find information. We will be posting some websites, relevant websites, as well in the comment section below, about the Irish Medical Council website and all those bits, so that viewers out there can also click on them and read for themselves. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So, we are getting gradually to the end of our discussion today, to make it, and I just wanted to find out, in terms of long-term prospects, are IMGs successful in sort of rising through their ranks to becoming consultants, or do you know of any success stories? Are there people like that from your experience in Ireland?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'll say it's very possible. You can, I've seen IMGs who came from their own country, haven't practiced for a few years in their country, and moved here, and today they're consultants after a few years and a few exams, of course. But it's very possible. Ireland, as I mentioned, is a smaller country than the UK, so it's more competitive getting onto the schemes or the training programs because of demand versus supply. But again, if you put in the extra work of the exams and accumulating the experience, is very possible progressing. So there's a huge there's a future prospect in medicine here in Ireland. I know one of my consultants, while I was an intern, who came in as he didn't live here before. He practiced medicine in Ireland, in Nigeria, and back home for a few years before he moved here. I think he started his senior house officer job here and then moved to become a specialist registrar, and today he's a surgical consultant. So it's very possible. Don't limit yourself. Don't think because I don't have the Irish passport, I'm at a disadvantage. It might be a bit more challenging initially, but it's not necessarily an advantage. You being from a different healthcare system, you have an edge as well. You being from, a different background, you have something you can bring on the table, So it's not, your own experience might be different, but it's not necessarily a disadvantage depending on how you look at it. Are you a couple? A cup half full, half empty kind of person.
Yeah.
It really depends on how you look at it. So it's very possible. I'll say success stories. As I mentioned, my consultant who worked in Nigeria for a few years and over here, and now he progressed through the ladder and is a consultant. Another success story, I'll say myself perhaps. So I,
Definitely.
I I studied back home in biochemistry in Nigeria. If I thought I would be a doctor here in Ireland after a couple of years, I would say it's a lie. So it's something that I'm very grateful for, and I don't take it for granted. So as I mentioned, I studied biochemistry in Nigeria, and I came to med school here. I didn't think I was going to get a job here after med school because I finished in Malaysia in the Irish campus in Malaysia, and it was a bit difficult getting exams. I had to take a year off to take exams for the UK and Ireland, and see whichever one panned out. So keeping your options open as well is important. So anyway, and then I started working here, and I've been working here since 2020. I'm having done a couple of exams and passed them, and getting support. You're not an island. I certainly haven't been an island. Having the support of the Irish healthcare system as well, obviously, and also friends and colleagues from work. It's always nice to get that support. So you won't progress on the ladder on your own. You're going to need people who would help you. You're going to need success stories that you're looking up to that would encourage you and give you that motivation to go for it. So I would say yes. So I would also say I'm a success story as well. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your personal experiences with us too, Bike. I have been encouraged. I believe people out there have been encouraged as well, because like you said, it is possible so long as you put your mind to it, so long as you believe you can do it, you can achieve it with the help of God. It is definitely possible. Right. So Mika, I just want to say thank you so, so much for making time for this. I know I've been in touch with you over the last few weeks, trying to plan this. I don't take it for granted at all. You making time to share your experience with people out there. I believe you are touching lives. I believe you're impacting lives as well through this. So I just want to say thank you so, so much.
You're very
But
welcome. Thank you
before
so much for having me as well. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
the words, um, maybe just a take home message, just something brief for people watching.
So I'll say my last words will be don't give up. It can be very discouraging, and before you move, it can be very discouraging. The financial implications, the exams you need to take, the documents that you require, having to even get those documents from wherever. It can be very, very discouraging. It's so important to have a support system and have people encourage you. It's also so important to also look at success stories who have done it as well. But it can be very discouraging, but don't be discouraged. It's very possible. It's just a matter of time, really, and then things can flip the other side. So don't be discouraged. Don't give up. I know someone literally last year. Someone had messaged me. She had finished medical school in I think Ukraine. She's Nigerian. She finished medical school in Ukraine, and she was looking to practice or to start to apply for jobs in the UK and Ireland. And today she's cleared her exams and she's going to get a job in the UK. So it's very possible. It's just time and dedication and not giving up. So my last statement, I'll say it's turning into a story, but anyway, I'll say is don't give up. It's very possible.
Mm.
The sky is only the beginning. Don't give up and trust God.
All right. Thank you so much, Timike. Thank you,
Yeah.
viewers, for watching. Don't forget to drop a comment. Don't forget to drop a like as well. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because I'm coming up with more of these informative videos out there. I'm going to interview other doctors from other parts of the world as well. I believe it's helpful for us to all know about these things to help us make informed decisions as well. And don't forget to drop a thank you to Maker in the comment section below, because she's made time out of her busy schedule to spend some time with us. Thank you so much, Maker, and I hope we'll catch up again sometime in another video.
Thank
Bye.
you.